this whole thing that I'm doing now because of Jordan Peterson. So
Right.
I had a pretty rough time in my early 20s. I had 3 major psychotic episodes,
Right.
and for whatever reason, when I was 24, so it was probably about 9 months to a year after my last one, I came across Jordan, and Jordan's lectures really helped me put myself together. And so I've been trying to understand what it was about what Jordan was doing that had this effect on me, because I was also not alone in this. Many people, Jordan says he gets letters all the time telling him some version of this story about people being in a dark place, and their lectures helped them to sort of drag themselves out of it. So I wanted to understand this. And I read Maps of Meaning twice, and it wasn't until I read it the second time that it really clicked. Now, I don't know how much, I probably don't want to go into this too much at the moment, but I'm also going to be working on a YouTube series that should be coming out at the end of the summer.
Yeah.
And in that series, I'm going to be integrating Maps of Meaning with relevance realization.
Yep.
Because the claim that I'm making is that Jordan's meta-mythology, right? So he identifies this general pattern underlying many of the world's mythological narratives. And what he says at the end of the book is that, if you're construing the world as a forum for action, which is how myth construes the world, what you need to know most fundamentally is what you should be aiming at, right? What should be your highest value, let's say. And as he says, what you should be aiming at is not a state, but a process. Or you don't want to aim at anything static, or you want to aim at enacting a process. And this process, as best I can tell, right? Because what does he say about the hero? The hero stands at the border between order and chaos. That's self-organized criticality. Okay, that's what criticality means. It means to be at the border between order and chaos. When you're at that border, what happens is essentially what you describe as problem formulation and reformulation. It's the structure of an insight. So you have a way, so he calls it a story. I think you would call it a frame, but it's the same thing. You have initial state, goal state, and then how you're going to get from an initial state to goal state. So that's order, right? That's your current order. That's the way that you're framing the world. That's the story that you're inhabiting. And then an anomaly occurs, which disrupts that story for whatever reason. You have a descent into chaos, right? You have to allow that story to dissolve, essentially. And then you breaking frame, right? It's the same thing as breaking frame. And you reemerge into a new frame, a higher order, and it's more complex, because it takes everything into account that the old frame did, and it takes into account the anomaly that disrupted the frame.
Right.
Now, and so what my fundamental claim is going to be in that series is, so William James defined religion as the idea that there is an underlying order, and that our supreme good lies in harmoniously adjusting ourselves
in the
there.
varieties of religious experience.
Yes. I believe that's where he said that, and this is basically the claim that I'm making. So I'm making the claim that there's an underlying process. And so that process is something that's independent of us. It's something that's involved in the bringing to being of everything, right? And we can put ourselves into alignment with that, right? By standing at the border between order and chaos, by enacting this process. So that's basically the claim that I'm making. There's this underlying process, and it also I'm also going to be making a historical claim. It plays out historically. And I think that when Nietzsche declared the death of God, essentially that was like a frame shift, like a cultural frame shift, right?
Yeah.
We lost that deep way that we were framing the world. Now, I think there's something really interesting going on here, because then it means I think Eric Neumann was correct, right? That the hero myth, in fact, is a representation of the existence and action of consciousness across time.